What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Forward Progress. It's Week 10, Best Bets edition here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and presented by Fanduel. It's your usual crew. I am Rob Pizzola, joined in the top right by Suma. Bottom left, Hitman. Bottom right is Judah. And today, we're breaking down 10 different NFL games on the Week 10 card. Hopefully, you can cash some bets on this week's slate. As a reminder, if you enjoy the show, don't forget to hit that like button down below, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel as well so you never miss an episode going forwards. I see a lot of the nails in the chat per usual. Suma will be chatting throughout the entire show with the likes of Dan, Levi, Cottage, AG, Kyle Lamb, Patrick. Good to see the regulars in the chat. Now, before we get into this week, quick review of last week, where it's been a consistent theme now, 2 for 2 on best bets for the third consecutive week. Unfortunately, Hitman's hot streak comes to an end on best bets, losing on the Chargers over. Looked like it was going to get there, ultimately didn't. Judah loses on the Commanders' alternate line. Also, lots of chances to win that in the second half. Unfortunately, doesn't get there. Suma and myself both rebound off of losses. Suma hit the Rams at the Seahawks. I got the dub with the Ravens, Broncos over. Hitman, I said your best bet streak, your hot streak, came to an end. But on the Saturday prop show, you gave out Tua under on passing yards. Ended up cashing that one in what I might describe as a miracle.
I was due after all the BS that happened last year on this network. So we had Puka Nacua get ejected as well.
What a show that was for you.
Yeah, that was a winner. But we did have AJ Brown over, and he left the game due to a injury in the first half, at the end of the first half. But I think we've won every week except one. So the year that on this network continues.
That is correct. We did roast you last year for a bunch of losing picks, but this year has been the year of Hitman, leading the best bets leaderboard and giving out some great props as well. And listen, when you're betting unders on players, an ejection is within the range of outcomes when you bet the under, right? Even if it was a mild slap.
I think I listed 4 outs to Jason. Like it was whether re-aggravating injury, ineffectiveness, and that I didn't account for that out, but I guess there was a 5th one.
There you go. You got it. Another winning week on that show. Hopefully we can make it a winning week on this show. We encourage you to get into the comments throughout the show today, as it helps us grow here on Forward Progress. Also, we like to react to a lot of the stuff in real time. So let us know what you like on the games as we are talking through them. We are going to start in Suma's backyard in Germany, treating the German fans to an absolute treat of a game between the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers. A privilege, as Suma says. Current market at FanDuel, Giants minus 5.5. Total in the game is 40.5. The market is pretty mixed here, whether it's at 5.5 or 6 across the board. Judah, we're going to start with you this week on the show. Panthers, Giants, it's an ugly game, but you have an opinion on one of the sides here.
Ooh, yeah, I'm going to hold my nose here. And I think I like the Panthers here I'd like the better at 6, but 5.5 here with the juice, I think, is fine as well. I'm not sure this is a Giants offense that is right now primed to take advantage of obviously how atrocious the Panthers are on defense. This is a team that has gone extreme run heavy over the last couple of games. And sure, the Panthers have a terrible run defense, but I think we can see a very similar style game to what we saw in New Orleans last week, which is even though the Saints had a ton of success rushing the football, it is just an inherently fragile style of play that if you're not really generating so many explosive plays and you're going one first down at a time, eventually you're going to succeed. Even if your base rate of success, your series success rate is 70%, which would be one of the best in the league. If you have to do that 6-7 times over the course of a drive, you're eventually going to fail. And I think on the other side of the ball, sure, Bryce Young is terrible. I don't think there's any doubt there. But it is also notable that in coming back the past 2 weeks, he has been far better than he was in all of last season and the first 2 weeks of this year. This is not a particularly great Giants defense. They, when generating quick pressure, have been the best defense in the NFL. And when they don't, they've been the worst defense in the NFL. And those rates have continued to decline as the season has gone along, as they've lost some guys to injury. Obviously, guys like Dexter Lawrence can take over a game. But I also think it is worth noting, and like we almost have this mental block of like, okay, we have decided that Bryce Young is a known quantity as a disaster. And I'm not saying that Bryce Young is going to be great, but I think there is certainly a non-zero chance and even perhaps a decent chance that like he's not by far the worst quarterback in the NFL, but only like the worst quarterback in the NFL or something like the 29th best quarterback in the NFL. And using that lens, I think this is just mispriced on a neutral. 5.5, 6 points. That is a lot for a Giants offense that can't really score and does not have a particularly great defense.
All right, Judah leading us off with the Panthers. We have some split opinions on this game. Hitman, I'll let you jump in next here because I know you're looking at the other side.
Yeah, a lot of my handicap with the Giants. I mean, this might sound a little square, but it's just that Carolina, in my opinion, is still historically bad as far as looking at teams over the last decade or two. Despite the win last week, it's still a team that was outgained by over 200 yards against a decimated Saints team. The Giants have had an incredibly tough strength of schedule this season. They've really only played one easy opponent the entire season, which was the Deshaun Watson-led Cleveland Browns, which they did have a 6-point victory against. This team's bad, but I think that they just statistically look a little bit worse than the reality based off some of the opponents that they have played. The Giants offense has found a running game in the past few weeks. They ran for 31, 164 against Washington, 25, 157 against Pittsburgh, despite an absolutely astronomical mismatch in the trenches. That game, Carolina's arguably the worst team in the trenches in the league, which really can't expose this Giants offensive line. And the Giants do have some legitimate weapons if Daniel Jones is protected. And speaking of the trenches, the the Giants defensive line just has an absolutely massive edge in this game against a Carolina team that I just don't believe can take full advantage of the Giants' weakness, which is their secondary. I just think that this could profile as a game where the Giants defensive line can take over this game against Bryce Young and not let the weakness of this defense get exposed. So yeah, I'm looking towards the Giants.
I agree with Hitman on this game. Suma, it's in your backyard. Do you have any opinions here, Giants and Panthers?
Yeah, siding with Hitman here. It's also more of a Carolina fate than a bet on the Giants. I still have the Giants like easily 2 tiers above the Panthers. The Panthers have like one somewhat decent game against the Saints, and that was a historically absurd win. I don't have the historic trend in front of me, but they are the first team to win with that box score in like forever. And I agree with Hitman. I think that the Giants will be able to run the ball. I don't know who's going to cover Malik Neighbors. I think that Daniel Jones and the Giants offense should also look a lot better where they don't get too much pressure. So, agreeing with Hitman and also liking the Giants.
Jordan in the chat says classic moron game. This is one that I think I've coined myself, but no matter what, if you bet this game and you're on the losing side, you're going to call yourself a moron afterwards. How did I lay this many points with DJ? How did I possibly bet the Panthers again? My only pushback against Judah here would be that Saints game last week, I think was largely influenced by Chris Olave getting hurt. And they just didn't have any real explosive weapons once that happened. The Carolina Panthers pass defense is historically bad. And to Suma's point, Daniel Jones, when he has time versus when he doesn't, is a completely different quarterback. I think they have receivers who win on the outside. And I'm looking to fade Bryce Young once more. I think last week was one of those situations where they pulled out the win in a very miraculous and fortuitous fashion. I think that this number is actually short, even on a neutral field here. So 3 against 1 here. Judah on the outs to start with Carolina and the New York Giants. Let's keep it moving along here. It is the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. We just saw the Colts on Sunday Night Football not look very great against the Minnesota Vikings. They return home. They're getting 4.5. It's a juiced 4.5 minus 118 at Fanduel. Total's been bet back and forth. Early money on the under this week. seen some buyback towards the over earlier this morning as well. Judah, we're going to go to you here first. You're looking at a side in this game, Buffalo, Indy. What's it going to be and why?
Yeah, I like Buffalo here. I think this is kind of fairly priced in terms of looking at the teams on a neutral field in terms of like fundamental value, saying that like there's 6 points between these two teams. I think that's reasonable. But getting back into the matchup here and seeing kind of how this game plays out, because these are real points in real games after all. And I'm kind of struggling to see the angle for how the Colts win here. I think in particular the running game. We talk about like the Colts passing offense, which I think took certainly had a step up going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco, at least in the short term. But something that's perhaps lesser talked about, but I think equally true is that like there are second order effects of like the run game being far worse. And there's been some very compelling research about the effect that a running quarterback has on the ground game. I mean, even look to like what Washington's doing this year with Jaden Daniels. I think that's a great example. Like Brian Robinson, I don't think magically got good. Austin Eckler didn't magically get good. They're having incredibly efficient seasons with Daniels in the backfield. All that is to say, and we've seen the splits, they're obviously going to be extremely noisy just by virtue of the small sample, but Jonathan Taylor's averaging like 3.4 yards per carry with Joe Flacco and 5 yards per carry with Anthony Richardson. We even saw, yes, the Vikings have a great run defense. This is why we don't use on-off splits. But I think it does fit in kind of with some of the research that we know that this is a run game that I think is going to struggle. And the Bills' run defense has been, over the last months of the season, #1 in rush EPA. They've basically been great against everyone but Derrick Henry and Baltimore, which I think to kind of that point earlier is a function of the Ravens' success. And they're probably the best run game in football. And then when you kind of get a situation where Buffalo can stop the run, you're forcing Joe Flacco into obvious passing situations, which he's historically been terrible with. And you've got a Bills secondary that is like getting much healthier and has been among the best in most kind of separation prevented metrics, and especially on the outside. They're vulnerable to opposing running backs and tight ends, especially. I don't think, unless Kyler Granson's kind of beat you up here, and Jonathan Taylor, I guess, perhaps used as a receiver. We haven't seen much of that throughout his career. And I just don't see this as a successful spot for the Colts offense. And I think the Bills are a house. I don't think there's anything on the matchup side from the Colts side of things that are going to kind of diminish the Bills' production. And they've been scoring at will. I don't see why that would change this week. And I think I'm fine kind of laying the margin here, given the matchup.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a case against you in this game probably about half an hour ago. And I still think if I had to bet it, I would take the Colts at this price. But the Michael Pittman injury now is something to keep an eye on coming up for this week. Pittman has not been great this year by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly he's underperforming his contract, but still matters in the scheme of things with that Indianapolis Colts offense. I'm not as convinced that Indy or Buffalo will completely shut down Indianapolis' running game. Certainly having Terrell Bernard there healthy is going to help them a lot. But I do think Indy can bully some teams up front in the running game, and Buffalo's shown a propensity over the course of this season at times to be bullied as well. Interesting splits with regards to Richardson and Flacco in the running game. I certainly think that's valuable and somewhat predictive going forwards as well. But I do think there is a path to success here for the Colts on the ground. Not strong by any stretch of the imagination for me, just a slight lean here to Indianapolis in this game. We are going to move on to a game where I think we all have at least some sort of opinion on this one. It's the Steelers coming off of their bye week and heading to Washington to take on the Washington Commanders. Actually just seeing this move right now in real time as we're talking about it. The Pittsburgh Steelers catching some money in this game. Washington back to -2.5, -115 at Fanduel right now. Total in the game is sitting at 45.5 in this one. Hitman, I'll go over to you here first. Commanders and Steelers. I think a lot of people making a case for both teams in this one. You have the Steelers underdog trends, Tomlin voodoo. You have the Commanders just being a freight train, basically offensively. Who you liking in this matchup, Hitman?
Yeah, that 2.5 that it just got moved to at FanDuel is pretty appealing. I like Washington in this game. I know that there's a lot of talk about Washington having a really easy schedule of opposing defenses, but the Steelers have had equally, if not more, of an easy schedule of opposing offenses that their defense has faced. I just flat out think that Washington's offensive output is more sustainable than what Pittsburgh's defensive output has been. They really haven't been stopped literally like this entire season, aside from games where they've been terrible in the red zone. And it's just not fully sustainable, in my opinion, for Washington to just continue to be so bad in the red zone. In some particular games that come to mind was the Bears game and both Giants games. I don't expect Mike Williams to play for Pittsburgh, their quote unquote big trade addition. I think that if Lattimore does play for Washington, Pittsburgh's offense is just so limited, specifically their pass game offense. If Pickens ends up getting trailed in this game by Marshawn Lattimore, Pickens kind of profiles as the guy that the contested catch winner that Lattimore has been super successful with throughout his career. Think of some of his matchups against Mike Evans. The last 2 weeks, Russell Wilson's stats have looked pretty good, but a lot of it some of this is just me going off eye tests, but like a lot of it has been off ridiculously difficult degree of difficulty, deep ball catches. I'm just not sure how sustainable that is week in and week out. And I'm still not sold on Russell Wilson being a even average NFL starting quarterback. And this Washington defense, like maybe it says something that I know there's been a lot of injuries, but Dallas's defense losing Dan Quinn has been at like 31st in the NFL this year. And Washington's defense, after being absolutely terrible with Ron Rivera, they're somehow 5th in pressure rate year to date. They've just outperformed my expectations by a mile so far. And Pittsburgh still has some offensive line injuries they're dealing with from the start of the season against this D-line that has put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I'm just still not sold that Russell Wilson is the guy that can overcome it. So I'm looking towards Washington in this game.
All right, Hitman making the case for Washington. Love this comment from Patrick, by the way. Mike Williams playing would only help the commies. How that guy's stock has fallen this year, man. Holy Jesus, stock has fallen quite a bit. Suma, over to you here. Commies and Steelers, what are you thinking?
In full agreement with Hitman. Biggest advantage, in my opinion, is the Commanders' offense, which has been pretty consistently great this year against that Steelers defense. Steelers defensive line is really, really good, but I agree with Hitman that they played a very light schedule of opposing offenses. And even that schedule is still skewed a little bit because they caught the Falcons in week 1. We still don't know what happened there. Kirk Cousins had not one single snap under center. It was just not the Falcons offense that is playing at the current level. And they had the Chargers where Justin Herbert was playing off a high ankle sprain in his first game. I think both tackles were out for the Chargers. So that was really an extremely light schedule. And now the Commanders are going to be a completely different MNL. I expect the Commanders to move the ball, score, and then I think at some point I just don't trust the current version of the Steelers offense to keep pace with that high-powered offense.
All right, that's 2 Washington opinions. Judah, I think if there's anyone that I know that has been pro-Washington this year, it would be you. I'll be surprised if you're looking the other way in this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, for all of the reasons I think that we've said for weeks now, I just think the market still has not caught up to Washington, especially on the defensive side even. I mean, I guess both sides of the ball, honestly. I think this is the best offense in football. Maybe the Ravens are right there too. I mean, Washington's scoring on 60% of their drives. There isn't another team. The Ravens are next to like 48% or something. They're having a ton of success. I think a lot of it is like matchup agnostic at this point. They're an elite offense by every stretch of the imagination. And until the market is pricing them as such, I think there'll be some value. And on the defensive side, I talked about the pass rush. I think that Torrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler are terrific players who are having top 15 seasons at edge and on the D line. And Russell Wilson is especially prone to those sorts of, he can't scramble anymore. He's actually, I mean, it's a tiny sample, but on plays in which he scrambled, he has had the worst EPA of any quarterback. I think that there's certainly a path to the Steelers winning, of course. But I think just given the where the market's at with Washington right now, yes, Pittsburgh's off the bye. I don't think these two teams are remotely in the same tier, especially with how well Washington's offense is playing.
Yeah, if I could rewind to yesterday morning, 10:35 a.m. Eastern time, Hitman's Telegram channel sent out a Commanders play, and I was going to, smash something because I really wanted to play the Commanders, and it moved the entire market. We're back, baby, to the price that I wanted on Washington. I think they're going to make this a clean sweep today. I like the commies in this spot. And listen, I faded Russell Wilson in the Steelers so far with negative success. He has played much better than I give him credit for. I am just extremely high on the Commanders offense. I have been all year. Anyone who wants to try to tell me like this is a wash, Commanders offense against Steelers defense, I would highly disagree with that. I think there are plenty of ways for Washington to move the ball. One thing they do extremely well as well is get the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hand very quickly. He avoids negative plays, which is huge against this Steelers defense as well. I could make a case for the over here as well, because one thing that the Steelers have done well with Russell Wilson is avoid those negative plays and generate some explosives. I do think if Washington scores, Pittsburgh has to play, pick up the pace, abandon the running game a little bit more and shoot it downfield. But ultimately, I think Washington's the better play now that we've gotten off the 3 here at FanDuel, -2.5, -115. So clean sweep this week for the Forward Progress best bet team. And we'll all be rooting for the commies. What could possibly go wrong? Before we get to the rest of our games here, reminder, football is in full swing. There's no better place to get in on the NFL action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just place any $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. You can use your bets on spreads, props, live bets, the to catch a pass market, which we love to bet on in our live watch-alongs, over-unders, and so much more. We really enjoy betting with FanDuel. They're a very fair book to players. They cater to both Rex and Sharps, give a lot of bonuses. It's a great product all around. Honestly, I'm huge on product, and I think it's the best in the market. So make sure you check out FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/forwardprogress. Download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/forwardprogress. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only, $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Okay, keep it moving along here, guys. Atlanta and the New Orleans Saints. One-way stream of Atlanta money so far this week. A lot of this would be injury report related. The Saints are struggling right now. They deal away Marshawn Lattimore. Injuries in the secondary. Chris Olave at receiver. Some optimism about Drake London playing in this game. FanDuel sitting at -3.5, -115 with the Falcons favored on the road. The total of the game, 46.5. That's creeping up towards 47. Suma, I'll kick it off with you here. There's been quite an adjustment in 1 week on where this number was on the look-ahead line. Do you think that adjustment has been warranted in this game between the Falcons and Saints?
Oh, yes, because I think the Saints are probably just a bad football team right now. After trading Marshawn Lattimore, I don't think who's left there on the defense, which has progressively gotten worse over the course of the season. They are second worst against non-QB runs, which plays very well into what the Falcons want to do on offense. Falcons might get healthier this week. Drake London sounds optimistic. Drew Delman might be back. Troy Anderson might be back. Grady Jarrett also called day-to-day. So the Falcons might really be very healthy. And then I think they should be able to easily move the ball on that Saints defense. They don't really generate a pass rush. They can stop the run. Now they have almost no one left at cornerback. So I think that this is a very, very good matchup for the Falcons. And on the other side, while I think that there's a path for success for the Saints, I mean, they have no wide receivers. Mason Tipton was their number one dude last week, and then there were like 3 tight ends. I would expect that to continue 12, 13 personnel, lots of Taysom Hill targets to tight ends, running the ball, and Falcons are also not good at stopping the run. But I think at some point, this Saints offense has or might have to play catch up, and then I don't think that they are really equipped to do so. And at some point, Derek Carr might be forced to make a lot of throws into tight coverage from the Falcons back end. And at that point, things might start to get worse. I like the Falcons here, even a little bit at the current price.
2 weeks in a row, that's Suma liking the Falcons. Sam Snead says, Suma, known Falcons hater, has flipped. I think you gave out some futures against the Falcons earlier in the year, and you're going to be known as a Falcons hater going forwards. Hitman, back in week 6, you took the Falcons as a best bet on the road at Carolina, laying 6. And it's not apples to apples this game, but it feels like there's a lot of similarities where you have a healthy Falcons team taking on a bad team that has a bunch of injuries. Some people want to give the Saints the coaching bump this week with no more Dennis Allen. I'm curious how you break down this game, Falcons and Saints this week, and if you do see similarities to that week 6 Panthers game.
Yeah, when I kind of wrote this game down as a lean, it was more like Saints minus 3.25 that I was looking to possibly bet. The line's kind of gotten away from me a little bit right now, but with that said, without Chris Olave, like this Saints team legitimately has almost nobody on. I mean, it's Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, and just I get, or maybe Taysom Hill, you could say, and just absolutely nobody. I mean, even Bug Means is even out right now. Like they're legitimately going to be starting at outside wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who just got to the team 2 weeks ago. It truly is a dire situation, and even on the defensive side of the ball, like this Saints team is just absolutely decimated on both sides. So I did kind of see a little bit of similarities in that game with Atlanta against a decimated Panthers team. With the head coaching thing, I actually think that it's probably a very minuscule, but still like a little bit of a bump. It just seems like the team didn't love Dennis Allen. There was some players that kind of had some subtle messages that kind of made it indicate that way. So I did think that was a little bit of a bump. One thing I'm looking at in this game is some of the props. Anytime there's a coaching change or a play caller or a coaching change, I really like looking the next week into that team's props to just try to dissect what is this team going to do different. Now, this one's just a little bit different because it's a defensive coach that is gone and the play caller and Kubiak is still going to be there. But there still could be little things that you could end up reading nuggets here and there, like, oh, the new coach wanted to open up the offense, wanted to run the ball, whatever it is. So I think that that's something noteworthy for the prop market to maybe pay attention to, is if there will be any schematic changes on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I lean no, as I said, because the play caller is still there, but it's something that I do always like to look into when there is a coaching change.
That's an interesting tidbit there as well. And yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You just have a brand new regime and you might see some changes in that sense. So a lot of sense if you want to look at props for the Saints Falcons game later this week. We'll group a couple games into one here, Suma, because I know me and you are looking at kind of the exact same thing in all likelihood here. So we got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Denver Broncos in NFC West matchup. I talked about this on the Monday night watch along where I love to put Chiefs in teasers when they are in this type of range. In fact, I teased the Chiefs on Monday Night Football with the Chiefs in this game. I got a double Chiefs teaser going because the Chiefs, while they do play a lot of close games, they do consistently pull those games out better than other teams. So I love the Chiefs as a teaser option this week. I'm not buying the Denver Broncos as like this force all of a sudden. I think we saw them play a lot of lesser competition earlier on in the year, beat up on those teams. Finally, they had a wake-up call against the Baltimore Ravens. So, Suma, I'll ask you this because I also like Chiefs teaser legs. Who do you think is the best team to pair with the Chiefs in a teaser leg this week?
To me, right now, it's the Chargers at home against the Titans. Titans, very bad team, and I think this game might somehow play out equally to the Browns Chargers game, not in terms of final result necessarily, but I think that the Titans will have a very hard time putting up points against this Chargers defense, which has been absolutely phenomenal. Granted, I will keep saying this every week. They have not played a tough schedule, but defensive performance is not really linear. And when you play against a bad offense, things can really amplify. We saw it last week again. And this Titans offense, Mason Rudolph, maybe Will Levis of a injury to his throwing shoulder. I just don't see how they really get the best out of this Chargers defense. And on the other side, the Titans are dealing with injuries. Kendrick Dix out for the season. Jarius Sneed has been out for 3 weeks now. Abuzi is still on IR. While I think that the Chargers offense is not really all that good in terms of moving the ball consistently, I think that Justin Herbert has been on an absolute heater the last 4 weeks. And I think that should be enough against that Titans pass defense to at least win by a field goal here.
Yeah, Chiefs Chargers teaser. And for those who don't know about the standard Wong teasers, you bring a team down through 7, through 3. Obviously, pricing matters as much as possible on these. And you always want to look for the best price in market when you're playing those 6-point teasers, try to get those minus 120s. But yeah, I mean, Chiefs this week, potentially with some look aheads next week, there's lots of options, I think, whenever you get the Chiefs priced in this range for what you can put them with as well. Keep it moving along here. It's the New England Patriots out on the road at the Chicago Bears. A lot of people pointing to the turmoil within the Bears locker room right now. A lot of people reading into body language. It's not looking so good. Some public comments from DJ Moore as well. Regardless, the Bears are favored in this game, -6.5, -102 at Fanduel. The majority of the market is painted 6 right now. Total in the game, 38.5, juice towards the over here. Weather not expected to be an issue in Chicago this week, with some mild winds, but not super strong winds for a November game. Hitman, over to you here. Patriots, Bears, spread. You're liking one of these sides.
Yeah, I'm looking towards New England in this one. It's funny. I saw a tweet 2 days ago talking about how Luke Getsy was just fired and his Raiders offense was averaging 4.6 yards per play, which somehow is the same amount of yards per play that Shane Waldron has right now with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, and Caleb Williams as his quarterback. It's definitely been one of the most underperforming offenses in the league. New England's defense is bad, don't get me wrong, but this is a Bears offense that's 22nd in EPA and 24th in success rate, despite playing a lot of defenses like New England. They've had one of the easiest schedules of opposing defenses in the NFL. I know there was a lot of talk before the bye that they figured it out coming out of that bye. They were dominated, or maybe not dominated. They were beaten pretty soundly, I felt like, statistically in the Washington game, despite that Hail Mary at the end. And they lost the yards per play battle, 6.1 to 3.4 against Arizona. They their offensive line is injured. They allowed a 42% pressure rate against Arizona, who has one of the worst defensive lines in the NFL, after allowing a 62% pressure rate against Washington. The defensive injuries are concerning right now. Montez Sweat, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and Andrew Billings. The latter two are definitely going to be out for this game. We'll see about the first two. And I don't listen. It's hard for me to. I tend to be a little slow to buy narratives like on teams quitting on their coach and everything. Like, I feel like a lot of times that's just more talk for the media that guys like Skip Bayless kind of focus on, and shows like that. But it has been a little bit concerning. I'd say, like, even specifically, like, with the most noteworthy guy right now being DJ Moore. Like, if you do watch some of the press conferences and have watched some of the film that's come out with him walking off the field during a play, saying that he had an ankle injury, but then he came back in. He didn't miss a play. He came right back in. It has been a little bit concerning, and there's been some reporters that have been close to the team talking about the defense, some issues they were having in the locker room after the whole Stevenson debacle against Washington. So I don't fully buy it, but I'm also not ready to just fully dismiss it either, that there is some turmoil going on with Chicago right now. So, yeah, I'm looking towards the underdog in this one with New England. +6, +6.5.
Suma, you had some thoughts here as well.
Yes, again, completely agreeing with Hitman today on all levels, I guess. I'm really impressed by Drake May, even though there were sometimes it didn't look great in the Titans game, but I think overall he's just displaying his incredible skill set like every week, and what he's getting out of situations with his legs is also very fascinating. Bears defense still backed up, and their offensive line. I think that the pressure rate and the amount of guys who got pressure last week from Arizona has been a little bit overblown. I think it was mostly just Caleb Williams inviting a lot of pressure with holding the ball for a long time, and then also running into a lot of pressure. But the O-line situation will not get better. Both starting tackles might be out again. That backup right tackle was absolutely brutal. And while the Patriots are not a great defense, like by any means, and also not a great pass rushing team, I think if they dial up the blitz, they can still confuse that O-line. And I'm not sure that even though it's not a good defense, I don't think the Bears can just come out and score like 30 points on this defense. Saw some analysis the other day. I think Shane Waldron is really, really bad. Then I lost at a really good video the other day where there are plays where 4 guys are running routes into the exact same spot. The run game has been mostly atrocious. DeAndre Swift has also not been good. I'm just not sure that they can hit a button within 1 week and all of a sudden come out with a much, much better offense. And yeah, granted, I think that current number is still a little bit too high. I'm closer towards 4.5 with the Patriots here. And I think most of that is me being a little bit higher on Drake May and the Pats offense.
This might be a record of 39 minutes into a show before we've asked Judah about an alt line in a game. But this was one where you pegged this, Judah, as a potential game where you might want to take alts. Are you looking at the Patriots side or the Bears side?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Patriots side here. I think what we've learned from Drake May thus far, the situation in New England is terrible, but he has shown a remarkable ability to create out of structure. He's got some of the best numbers when scrambling, when facing disruption, all of these sorts of things to kind of capture your kind of typical schematic plays. And what that does, I think, is kind of mitigate a bit the effects of having a good defense, where I think the market is kind of pricing in a lot of the premium here. And I think May is kind of going to be thrown in. The situations are going to be the same regardless, where it's going to be bad. But I think he is good enough to overcome it in any one single spot. And on the flip side, something that I think has been particularly shocking, I guess, on the Bear side is that Caleb Williams post-bye had his time to throw kind of go from 3 seconds the first 6 weeks of the season to 3.5 seconds in the next bunch of weeks. And like I chart like pressures as almost like quarterback created pressures and those that he is not really at fault for because they come so quickly. And Caleb Williams' rate of like quarterback pressures jumped from 20% to 30%. And on those plays, he's losing about a point in expectancy every time. That is a massive margin. I think it's a function of holding on to the ball for too long. I have no idea why he kind of changed that style, but I do think it's a reality. And if you're holding on to the ball for so long and inviting so much chaos, I don't think that a matchup against New England is going to kind of change that. And even looking at the Bears side, like the Arizona defense is a worse unit than New England, and this unit went completely flat. I don't think it would be shocking to see the Bears offense continue to go to just like completely lose in any production. And I think Drake May is good enough to overcome the matchup with the Bears and a defense that I think is kind of generating most of the market value.
Patrick in the chat says, why is this total still 38.5? Seems too low. I tend to agree. However, Suma did bring it up. You have potential left tackle and right tackle out for Chicago. So that I think is why the total is holding still where it stands right now. Keeping it moving, the Dallas Cowboys, complete disappointment. As Dinger would have said in the chat back in the day, unserious team is what he would have called them. And they are very unserious with Dak Prescott out this week. CeeDee Lamb dealing with an AC joint injury. AJ Brown practiced for the Eagles today. Devontae Smith was not out there, but it's just Wednesday. The Eagles sitting as a 7-point favorite now with all these adjustments. The total, though, at 42.5. And Hitman, you had some thoughts on the total in this game.
Yeah, just leaning towards the under. Obviously, the injuries that Dallas has had has been extremely negative for the offense with Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and some of the injury reporting has been positive with getting Parsons back and possibly Deron Bland. This is an Eagles offense that the last time that Cooper Rush came in for Dak for, I think it was 5 or 6 games, the offense slowed down considerably, 2.2 seconds per play during that stretch. The Eagles injury report, we'll see what's happening with A.J. Brown if Goddard's still out, but it is a team, if they are missing A.J. Brown, that has very little depth at pass catcher. Jalen Hurts it's a small sample size, only like 110 plays, but he's averaging 2.6 less yards per attempt with Brown off the field this year. But more noteworthy with the Eagles is just the fact how run heavy they've been. They've went from having a positive pass rate over expectation early in the year to their post-bye marks are -12, -15, -15, and -13%. They're by far the run heaviest offense in the league the last month. It's been working. So I see no reason for them to stop that. And coinciding with how the offense has been so much more run heavy and playing at such a slower pace has been the Eagles' defense after starting the season out pretty rocky, specifically in that week 1 Brazil game with the field conditions being poor against Green Bay. For the season now, they're up to 5th in success rate. They're 12th in EPA per play. They're 2nd in EPA since the bye week. It was against a lot of bad offenses similar to this bad Dallas offense, but one of the games was against the Bengals. So I just think that recently that the Eagles have profiled as more of an under team.
Okay, that's the only look on that game. I would tend to agree with you there, especially with the way that I think the injury reports are going to play out. One thing in regards to Dallas and like people comparing, people are like, when Dak Prescott last got injured for the Cowboys, Cooper Rush came in and the offense didn't really miss a beat. Well, they did. The offense did miss a beat. It was worse. Cooper Rush did win games, but also that was a very different O-line, very different weapons, a defense that wasn't deplorable. I don't think it's apples to apples. I would certainly not use that comparison. This might just be pessimistic Cowboys fan, but I do not hold out high hopes for that offense with the weapons that they're going to be rolling out there this week. Shifting gears here. The Arizona Cardinals looking great right now, taking on the New York Jets, who looked to get their season back on track, dare I say, in prime time against the Houston Texans last week, when a lot of people just couldn't figure out how they were favored in that game. They're favored again now at Fanduel. Now, I will say the market's pretty split on this. Some books have Arizona short favorite. Some books have the Jets a short favorite. You can see the money line here at FanDuel, -112 for the New York Jets. The total in the game is 46.5 here as well. Judah, I'm going to start here with you. Jets, are we buying the potential resurgence of the New York Jets?
Yeah, I mean, from like a fundamentals point of view, it never really left. If the Jets had a different kicker and Greg Zuerlein wasn't missing some kicks, I think the narrative around the Jets is entirely different. They're healthy right now on defense. That's not something we've been able to say basically for the entirety of the season. They've got Devontae Adams in the full swing of it. Rodgers is playing at a perfectly capable, if not good rate. And I think this is an Arizona team that is at the benefit of 3 wins by a combined 4 points, with games they had absolutely no business winning. The Niners, when they lost their kicker and were going forward on 4th and 19 instead of kicking field goals, at a game against the Chargers in which they were outgained by 250 yards, and it took a Jalen Reagor fluky fumble in addition to just some like horrible red zone efficiency, whatever. That's not the point. I think Arizona is overvalued in the market, and I think this is a Jets team that is the healthiest and best they've been so far, despite their 3-6 record.
Suma, you are the resident Jets fan here. Condolences, by the way, for the season so far. But are you feeling the excitement? Is it time to get back? And by the way, I joke about this. Suma is very impartial when it comes to betting the Jets. He bets on them sometimes. He bets against them sometimes. But curious this week, Suma, are you back in on the Jets?
Yes, back in. I love this matchup as well. I agree with everything that Judah has said. The vibes could be different if Zuerlein hits 2 kicks more, and maybe the Cardinals lose to the Chargers and maybe to the Dolphins or the 49ers. What I like a lot about this matchup is the matchup when it comes to pass blocking. I think that the Jets have a very decent edge when it comes to pass blocking. Their O-line could be back healthy, but I think they have held up quite decently. And the Cardinals, despite that game last week, which I think was a lot about the Bears and Caleb Williams, and not necessarily about the strength of the Arizona Cardinals defense, the Cardinals still have one of the worst pass rushers in the game, and Aaron Rodgers will not hold the ball for 3.4 or 3.5 seconds like Caleb did last week. He will get the ball out quick, and then I think the matchups for Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams against those Arizona cornerbacks will also be there for them. And on the other side, the Cardinals O-line has also not been good at pass blocking, and now they are going to face a Jets defense line that's getting better and better. Reddick will have his 3rd game, I guess, might be up to speed at some point. And like Judah said, except for CJ Mosley, the Jets defense will be mostly healthy. Tony Adams will be back, should help over the middle of the field. And I think they can really get consistent pressure on the Cardinals. The Cardinals might be able to run the ball because the Jets defense has not been good against the run. But in general, I think this is a very good matchup for the Jets on both sides of the trenches.
All right. I tend to echo a lot of what you and Judah have said there. I really can't add a whole lot more. But to me, raw numbers on this game, I think there's a little bit of value with the Jets here. I do really like Arizona's coaching staff. That's my biggest hesitation here relative to the Jets coaching staff. But ultimately, got to trust your numbers every now and then. And I'm with Suma and Judah here, where I lean strongly towards the Jets. Sunday Night Football, lots of moving parts for this game with the Lions and the Houston Texans. Apparently, Nico Collins is now fully healthy. However, we do not know whether or not he will play for this particular game, as the Texans might choose to hold him out 1 additional week. Will Anderson beat up for Texans? He's in danger of missing this game and potentially more after this as well. Detroit is a freight train. They keep winning. They keep covering. The spread now out to 3.5, -105 at FanDuel. Total 49.5 in this game. Suma, I'll let you make the case for one of the sides here.
Yes, making the case for the Lions. Nico Collins did not practice today, and when you listen to D'Amico Wines, to be honest, I could be wrong, but it did not sound optimistic. It sounded rather pessimistic. Lots of talk about we will see how it goes. Maybe we will decide at the end of the week. The fact that he did not even practice in a limited capacity makes me not really optimistic about him playing the Sunday. Granted, I could be wrong. We will see later in the week. But even with Nico Collins, I don't know whether he will be at 100% if he comes back after being DNP on Wednesday. I think that this Texans offense is really, really struggling right now. Zadarius Smith will probably help the Lions defense, but they have been very solid even without Aiden Hutchinson. They play tight, sticky coverage on the back end against a Texans receiving group that without Nico Collins cannot get open anywhere on the field. I think that the Lions should also get some interior pressure. They might dial up some blitzes, and the Texans really have one of the really bottom 8 success rate when it comes to moving the ball on early downs. Early in the season, it was all C.J. Stroud making some magic happen on third down. And with a depleted receiving group, I just don't see why that should suddenly change. I think this will be another offensive stinker by the Texans. And then on the other side, the Lions are an absolute machine right now. And while the Texans defense is really, really good, I'm not sure that there is really a defense right now that can contain the Lions offense for 60 minutes. I think they should be able to run the ball, Jameson Williams back, and then do enough to get this one home.
So Suma on the Lions here, making a case for it. We've had a few disagreements on the show today, and I think, Hitman, for you, this would be a disagreement.
Yeah, it's a disagreement, but I'm kind of with Suma. I'm getting a little bit nervous about the Nico Collins thing, and I would need Nico Collins, and probably I would need Will Anderson to play in this game for me to bet Houston plus 3.5. I know that that's an obvious statement, but if anybody has any intel on it, hit me up, because I would need I would need it, or else I have no interest in Houston in this game. I also think that's going to determine what this line. It's an obvious statement, but it's one of the most impactful receivers in the league. But that's short and sweet. I need Nico Collins and Will Anderson, and then I lean towards Houston.
Yeah, I wonder what the derivatives of this line will look like, or like the potential lines could look like, depending on the combo of who's playing in this game.
Yeah, I'll say, I guess if there's no Anderson or Collins, what do you think? 4.5 it closes, and then I think maybe 3, like 3 flat, like 3 minus 110. If at least if Collins is in.
I think what will likely happen is if Collins and Anderson get ruled out, the line will steam out towards Lions. But I still think that the game day money, like game night, 1 hour before game, will be on Houston. I think this is like a very sharp square divide kind of game. I don't care if I'm going to be on the square side and bet the Lions out earlier, but I think there's going to be interest in Houston no matter what here at some point. That's just my gut feel based off of like who I've talked to in order flow this week. Judah, I think I can see you thinking about it here. Do you have any thoughts on what might happen here based off of injuries in the game?
I think it's so dependent on it that I don't have any side right now.
Yeah.
Coming into the week, like I was really confident Collins was going to play. Like there was beat writers, I think it was Rick Wilson, that was saying like, yeah, Nico Collins. It was like 2 weeks ago. He was like, oh, he's running at 20 miles per hour already. He's on schedule and everything. But like I agree with Suma that it's been a little scary. Some of the comments about it. So I'm up in the air about it personally.
Just some quick math for me. I'm estimating 90% Will Anderson out, 75% Nico Collins out. You multiply those two together, 67.5% both don't play. That's my rough estimate on the game as we stand right now. We'll get more information on it over the course of the week, but I'll be very interested to monitor this one all week. Monday Night Football will end here before best bets. It is the Rams and the Dolphins. Dolphins they can't get a win. They're in games, can't pull it out. The Rams, they seem to do the opposite lately now that they're healthy. Even though Nakua got kicked out of the game last week, they win on the road at Seattle. Game's been bet down to 1.5 earlier today. Total 50.5. And Suma, you wanted to look at the total in this game.
Yes, I like the over at a number below 51. Dolphins 2 is back, and they immediately played 2 games into the 50s. The Rams defense has been really a surprise. Exactly the young guys along the defensive line. Jared Verse, Judah tweeted about it today. Jared Verse is having a monster rookie season. However, I think there are still a lot of holes in their secondary and their linebacking group. And Tua gets the ball out so quick that I think they can somewhat negate the Rams defensive line and create a lot of explosives and big plays against this defense. And on the other side, the Rams had a really stinker game against Seattle, but I think against the Dolphins defense that quietly had a decent pass rush. But I think that the Dolphins defense in general is not good enough to really stand ground against the Rams offense in full swing. There's a very decent chance that the Rams get both starting guards back or / starting center with Jonah Jackson and Steve Avila. Rob Havenstein will be out, but Joe Noteboom is likely going to fill in as the swing tackle. So I think the Rams defense for the first time this year, I think so, because Alaric Jackson was suspended the first 2 weeks, will be basically fully healthy, and that should also be enough to put up points against this Dolphins defense. I think this is going to be a very good and entertaining and tight game, but I also think we will see a lot of scores here.
All right. That's going to be it for the 10 games that we covered here on Forward Progress. As always, if you enjoy the coverage, smash that like button down below. It means a lot to helping us grow our channel. If you're first timer here, every single week, 60% of you that watch this show are first timers. Consider subscribing to our channel as well, as it helps us monetize and grow our reach in the YouTube ecosystem. Best bets time. As is tradition, we start with the winners from the week prior. Suma, we're going to go to you here first. What's it going to be and why?
Really weird feeling to go first this season. I'm going with the Jets. I really like them. I think they are undervalued in this sport. I like their matchup, especially the pass blocking / pass rushing matchup. I think the offense with Davante Adams now in his 4th game should find some groove down the stretch. And I think that the Cardinals defense that has been punching above their weight a little bit might not be well equipped to stop this Jets offense. And I think that the Jets defense will make enough plays. My value is on the Jets here.
All right. I give this like speech about Suma not being a homer, and he takes the Jets as his best bet in the same show that I do that. Of course, naturally, that would happen. I'll go next year after winning last week. I'm going to stick with a total. I don't know that this is the best time to bet it because you may get some negative news here with the Bears left tackle and right tackle at some point this week. But I do like the over between the Bears and the Patriots on Sunday. Weather looking good at Soldier Field. And the handicap for this game is that the Patriots defense is terrible. They don't generate pressure. They have a bottom 5 pressure rate. They have a bottom 5 adjusted sack rate. This, despite blitzing at the 4th highest rate in the entire league. You saw Caleb Williams running around like a chicken with his head cut off last week. I don't think that's happening against New England here. I think the Bears will move the ball. We saw when they have downgraded or like stepped down in defense, especially at home, Carolina Panthers a few weeks back, move the ball at will. Jacksonville in London, move the ball at will as well. They had a pretty decent game against the Rams, and the Rams had injuries as well. So I'm not buying that the Bears offense is completely done. Other side of things, I like Drake May, and you have some potential injury upside with the Bears defense right now. Andrew Billings is going to miss. That's a big hole for them on the interior of their defensive line. Jaquan Brisker is not going to clear protocol. He'll be out again. Even though Kyler Gordon and Montez Sweat are practicing, you potentially get one of those guys missing as well. I think it is a little short here in terms of total. I'm playing the over in the Patriots game. Keep it moving here. Hitman, listen, you didn't get the best bet last week. Prop looks are still good, but the people are here for the best bet. So you got to get back on track this week.
Yeah, we're up against the time-wise, so Rob said to go quick. We talked about this game earlier. I'm on Washington, -2.5 for my best bet. All four of us on the show said we liked Washington. The line was 3. The line about 5 minutes later steamed down, I think, from all the 3s got taken out to move it to 2.5. What a better sign that the whole show likes Washington and the market moved against us. So let's go with Washington, -2.5, -120.
Yep. What are you going to do? The market is the market. I mean, I knew people would have some opinions on the Steelers in this game. And I mean, people bet against Washington pretty regularly. It doesn't work out for them pretty regularly, though, in a lot of cases. Judah, we will end with you here. You like a side this week as well.
Yeah, going with the Jets money line here. As we said, I think this is the healthiest the Jets have been on the defensive side. Kyler Murray in particular kind of struggles against teams with particularly great coverage units. He does a good job mitigating pressure, but the Jets have done a terrific job in generating pressure, which obviously is still something to overcome, and also on the coverage side of things. And this is an Arizona defense that has been abysmal against the pass. I think the Jets will have their way passing with them. They don't really have much home field advantage of any team. I think these teams are not in the same tier, and I think the spread might look a little bit different had some of these results of the last few weeks gone a different way.
A double best bet. We've had those before. I feel like they win more often than they lose, but this could just be gut feel. I don't know. Hitman and Suma, you would know from being around for years.
Yeah, I think we're 100% when we have the same best bet. We're like 25% all time when we don't.
So what you're saying is Jets might be a 3-star NFC or AFC game of the year this week.
Yeah.
Well, even though it's a cross-conference game of the year. Sure. That's going to be it for our NFL Best Bet show this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button, subscribe to Forward Progress. You can also catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts every week as well. If you want to listen after the fact, please drop your thoughts and picks in the comments below. If you're watching this non-live as well, I'll respond to everyone later on in the week and give my thoughts on whatever you might ask or whatever picks you throw out there. For myself, Rob Pizzola, for Judah Fortgang, for Suma, for Hitman, I called you Billy Walters 2.0 last week. Sorry, Hitman. I definitely cursed you. Jason Cooper behind the scenes as well. Best of luck this week. And as always, bet responsibly. We'll see you next time.